Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's event. I'm Adam Robinson, chairman of the Chicago Republican Party. And on behalf of the Chicago Republican Party, I'd like to welcome you to tonight's Republican primary debate for the 2nd Congressional District special election. Thank you. The primary election will take place on February 26th, with the general election for this seat taking place on Tuesday, April 9th. I want to thank some folks who've been involved with putting this event together. I want to thank the committeemen of the Chicago Republican Party who have helped to organize tonight's event, including our vice chairman, Chris Cleveland, Committeeman Suzanne Devan, Darnell Macklin, and of course, Committeeman Percy Coleman, who so generously donated this facility for us to be able to be here tonight. So thank you. The 2nd Congressional District is a large district, very diverse, and I want to thank the committeemen of the Republican Party, the City of Chicago, who comprise the 2nd Congressional District within the city limits. Committeeman Emil Cacaro, Juan Antonio Diaz, Marguerite Faulkner, Waylon Johnson Jr., Tom Malish, and Percy Coleman. Thank you. And a very special thank you to Cliff Kelly for moderating tonight's event. And really, most importantly, to the candidates who are putting themselves out here for our party tonight for this seat. Thank you very much. We also want to thank CAN TV for covering this event for cable and online viewers. Information about CAN TV programming is available at www.cantv.org. This seat is an important one for a couple of reasons. And briefly, I'll just say this. The Republican Party has an opportunity to send another member to Congress to join the majority. And I think for the first time, our party is serious about providing real alternatives with support from the party in Chicago to run and provide an alternative in communities like this one. And so I hope what you see tonight from us is the first of many events like this, where our candidates are stepping forward and bringing an alternative message, which, as we all know, it's time for an alternative in this community. It's my honor to share with you a message that Peter Roskam, who's our incumbent congressman in the 6th Congressional and Chief Deputy Whip of the House, handed to us, and I'd like to read this for you tonight. I am pleased that the people of the 2nd Congressional District have a strong slate of Republican candidates to consider when casting their vote in the upcoming special election. As a member of the House leadership, I welcome the opportunity to work closely with the winning Republican to enact the type of policies that can jumpstart our economy and create a future of opportunity for the people of Illinois and the 2nd Congressional District. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to our moderator, WVON's Cliff Kelly.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So glad to be invited to this. I was not surprised, but to give you an example, and there are some people here, let me get it right, that were in a forum we had on Saturday about concealed carry. The gentleman right here was great. He explained the whole Senate bill. But at any rate, when Senator Maddie Hunter called me, she said, we want you to do this, but to moderate it, but we know that you are for concealed carry. I said, you know that? How do you know that? She says, everybody knows that. So she said, but notwithstanding that fact, we think that you can moderate and do a good job without going either way. So I said, sure, I can do that. So tonight, some people were asking me, first I'm honored to be asked to be here. But someone said, well, yeah, but you're a Democrat. I said, yes, I am. But let me say, I have voted for Republicans many times. In fact, I voted for a Republican in the last election. So, and many of you know who that is, too. Young lady that ran great race out of the Fifth Ward. You know who I'm talking about. But there's a number of times I voted for. In fact, well, I won't get into it because I'm not running for anything now, but we have 3 great people here. It's just so wild. I heard a story just coming. You know, everybody said, well, be careful. You don't want to be too lucky. You know, you win the lottery and you end up getting poisoned. And you're talking about the cyanide, yeah. Yeah, exactly. This woman goes into the apothecary and tells the druggist, I want to buy some cyanide. And he said, cyanide? Madam, don't you understand how poisonous cyanide is? No, I can't. What do you want to use it for? I want to poison my husband. And so the druggist says, I tell you what, if I sold you the cyanide, I could lose my license. But now it's even worse because now that I know what you're going to use it for, then I will be involved in a crime and I'll go to jail. So I'll tell you what I'd like you to do for me. I'd like you to get out of my establishment right now and never, under any circumstances, come anywhere near my door again, okay? She says, well, all right, but first let me show you this. And she shows a picture of her husband with the druggist's wife. And he says, oh, I didn't know you had a prescription. So you always have to check things out, you know what I mean? We're going to have a good time here tonight. First, let me mention the format. I'm sure each of the candidates have it, but I want to make sure all of you know. Each candidate has 2 minutes for his opening statement. Questions from ward committeemen will be posed after the opening statement. Written questions will be taken from the audience and asked by the moderator, and I've got some here that are great already. I mean, some of you all have given us some great questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question posed. Any candidate mentioned by another candidate will have 45 seconds for rebuttal comments, and each candidate will have 2 minutes for his closing statement. So what I'd like to do again is to thank the Republican Party for inviting me and putting on this, what I think is going to be a very interesting discussion here. And we're going to have each candidate, oh, and the timekeeper right here, and please, she's going to put up the time, and please don't make my job difficult, okay? All right, in other words, when it's over, right? Okay, good enough. That's great, guys. I did one with 22 candidates, and people did all right. So with 3, we should be fine. And I know these people, and they're great folks. Let's have each candidate. Since I am not introducing you, I want each of you to introduce yourselves for 1 minute. All right? I'm changing a little something here. And then I'm going to have you do 2 minutes for your opening statement. All right? So just let's use, is that okay? Okay. Each of you introduce yourself. Let's start right here, Doc. We'll start with you. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Oh, yeah, you can, sure, if you'd like to. Certainly. He's going to introduce himself and then go on with a statement. So we give him 3 minutes, okay? All right.
Change things up on me. That's okay. Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm Dr. Eric Wallace, PhD in Biblical Studies. I've been involved in the Republican Party for about 9 years. I've done a number of different things, run for state senate in 2006, ran for circulated petitions for U.S. Senate in 2009. So I'm really excited about being involved in this particular special election. But I came up here actually with the idea that I was going to tell you about why, the question they actually gave me was why I think I'm the best candidate for the race to replace Jesse Jr. And I wrote down 3 things. I have integrity, I have principles, and a faith commitment. Talk about integrity. When I first got into politics, I got in 2004 because I felt like Illinois was just so full of people who, I mean, it's like the Democrats and Republicans were in a race to go to jail or something. Every time you turn around, somebody was being indicted for something. And I started thinking, Edmund Burke says the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And I kept thinking, if I don't do anything, if good people don't run for office, then we're going to continue to get the kind of people we've been getting, right? And so I felt like integrity was important. And when I say integrity, it means saying what you mean and meaning what you say. And then owning up. If you do something wrong, you own up to it, right? And you live to a set of principles, which takes me to number 2. Principles. For the last 5 years, my wife and I have been challenging the church in general, and the African American church in particular, to stand for what we say we believe. We've articulated a certain group of conservative principles and ideas, and we call them the RISE principles, which is an acronym for responsible government, individual liberty and fidelity, strong family values, and economic empowerment. I believe this is a way in which to talk about conservative principles to a set of or a group of people and communities that have not really heard conservative principles clearly articulated. But not only is our principles important, but lastly, I want to talk about my faith commitment. At age 16, I gave my life to the Lord, and it was important to me. And I decided I was going to live for the Lord and do whatever He called me to do. In 2004, I finished a PhD in biblical studies. Had done some teaching at Elmhurst College and North Park University. And I started trying to think, okay, Lord, what is it you want me to do? And He started pushing me toward politics. And so I decided I was going to follow the Lord in whatever He called me to do. And it was like Joshua, the story of Joshua in the Bible, when the Israelites had finished fighting the Canaanites in the land of Canaan, in the Promised Land. And Joshua calls all the leaders to Shechem, and he says to them, choose you this day whom you will serve, whether it's the gods your fathers served across the river or the gods of the Amorites in whose land you live right now. But as for me and my house, I will serve the Lord. And that's what I plan to do if I'm your congressman. I'm going to serve the Lord first, because the Lord's not a Democrat or Republican. Amen? Thank you.
My name is Paul McKinley. I'm running for the 2nd Congressional District. I'm not running like other people are running. I'm running because I'm running against a machine, a mechanized machine that gobbles up our community. In the city of Chicago, we have the highest murder rate in the world. No other country has this type of murder rate. And folks is even scared to even say that it's a machine. Word has even come from Washington, D.C., that those big-time Republicans won't even interfere with this election. I'm the same one that protested every one of these same people that's in power right now. Our organization protested them. Whether it been for the police that lock folks up illegally and put them on death row, whether it be for folks losing their houses, whether it be for starving out a whole community, where it pushed young men into the streets to stand on the corners in these communities, where elected officials don't say anything, where they sit down and watch all our people die in the streets, don't say nothing. Last year, 440 CPS students were shot. Where was your leaders? Why weren't your leaders saying something? 503 people was murdered in Chicago. 3,000 people were shot. It's more violence in Chicago than down on the border. That's right. And they got a narco-terrorist war going on down there. I'm the best person because I ran against the machine and I wasn't getting paid for it. I was running against the machine when I was fighting against everything they was doing. I'm the best person for it because ain't nobody gonna stand up and say the stuff that I'm gonna say. I protested your president for the part that he played. I protested the president's wife for the part that she played in taking the trauma center away right out of your community. They are more concerned about the global, the whole nation. We're concerned about the nation health care. Well, what about the health care on 63rd in Cottage Grove? How can you care about folks you don't see and you can see the folks right there on 63rd and Cal. You can look out your window right there on 51st and see our little kids walking around. We can't never get you to say nothing about our issue. If you want somebody to go up in Washington who gonna say how you feel, if you want somebody got the guts that's gonna say it like it is, then vote for me. But if you want the exact same thing that's been going on, you vote for them other folks, because you're gonna get the exact same thing you've been getting, nothing.
Good evening to everybody here that's here with us today. Good evening to those on CAN TV, those at Breitbart TV. My name is Lenny McAllister. I'm a Republican candidate running for the 2nd Congressional District, and I'm looking for your vote and your support on February 26th. Now, when it comes to the unemployment crisis that we're facing, or the foreclosure crisis that many of you out there in CAN TV land may be facing, whether it comes to the rapid rise of spending that is threatening our national sovereignty, or it's the gun violence and community violence that impacts far too many homes. We understand that we're at a very unique point of time in our American history and a very unique set of challenges and obstacles that get in our way. But we also understand together that as one big team, we also have a unique opportunity to change the paradigm of politics and bring hope and change back, but not necessarily the way you've been getting it over the last 4 years. Actually get it in a way where we empower and re-strengthen the 2nd Congressional District. Now, how do we do that? We can't do that based on the lessons of the last election, by repeating the flaws and failures of the past, and we have to be able to engage the machine and not just rage against the machine. We have to make sure that we have the relationships, the resources, and the pressure points of those obstacles and hurdles so that we can dismantle them piece by piece, brick by brick. I am the best candidate for the Republican Party, and dare I say, the best candidate out of the 22 that filed, because I'm the only candidate that has the relationships and the resources, from the Congressional Black Caucus, the NAACP, the Urban League, to wonderful people like you out there and you at home, as well as folks, grassroots Republicans, the RNC, and the GOP structure here. I'm the only candidate with a winning record of helping Republicans win unwinnable races, such as the Mark Kirk 2010 Senate race, or the race in New Jersey and Virginia in 2009. I'm the only one with a record working with the grassroots activists to inspire Republicans to do more than what we've been doing with minority communities and be able to talk to the other side of the aisle and get cooperation and results. At some point in time, we have to grab this unique opportunity and say, let's move forward as one big team. I am one of you. We can do this together, and I'm looking forward to getting your vote, getting your cooperation, and changing the paradigm of politics and the results we're getting from the American political circles moving forward, starting this year in 2013. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to your questions. God bless.
Thank you to all three of our candidates. And now we will have a question from the 6th Ward Republican Committeeman, Darnell Macklin.
Good evening, everyone. Before I start, I want Cliff to know that when he cast that vote for the Republican candidate, he became what we call a pre-Republican. So we're working on it. My question for the candidates is, we'll be at the last part of this. I'm going to make a statement and then follow up question. But when an illegal immigrant enters the U.S. illegally, he commits a nonviolent crime. The current Congress is debating if this crime should be rewarded by giving that illegal immigrant amnesty for his crime. Over 1 million U.S. citizens are in prison in America, many of them for nonviolent crimes, things such as selling, drugs, using drugs, theft, and many other petty crimes. My question to the candidates is, upon your election to Congress, would you support legislation that would give amnesty to our imprisoned and paroled American citizens who have committed nonviolent crimes?
It's a very elegant question that we have to ask, because what we've been facing in the 21st century and over the last several generations is a failure from the political leaders and even a failure from our own party to capture the full potential of human capital that we have throughout the United States. There was a time when people from working class communities and poor communities, within one generation, whether they had bumps in the road or previous obstacles, could raise engineers and doctors, lawyers and bankers, could raise people that could stabilize a community and uplift a family legacy. And if you don't have the policies in place that allow that aspect of the American dream to come back, that do not allow us to be able to reintroduce the disenfranchised back to the American dream, we don't have an opportunity to do so. So yes, if I were in Congress, I would absolutely, positively support policies that would allow us to re-engage that human potential.
First of all, I disagree with immigration reform because it doesn't deal with the critical piece of narco-terrorism in my community. There's a picture being painted that people are coming across the border, that they're seeking opportunity. People are fleeing from the tyranny across the border, and some of them are bringing narco-terrorism in my community. The city of Chicago has just put together a narco-terrorist organization because it is a known fact that all the drugs that is distributed in the Midwest is being distributed out of Chicago by the Mexican cartels. And every time they bust black folks, they don't never show the Mexican cartels who are doing illegal dumping of drugs in my community. So before we talk about any reform, we want to talk about how you gonna straighten out black folks' lives and white folks' lives who was this drugs was dumped in their society.
First of all, I don't agree with amnesty either. The whole bill that they're talking about, we must first secure the border. That's one of the things we've always talked about, securing the border first before we try and do anything with the illegal immigrants that are here right now. When it comes to people that are in jail right now, I propose what we call restorative justice. Restorative justice means when people come out, we try and find ways to put them back into society so there's no recidivism. A lot of our crimes, people come out of jail, they can't find a job, they don't have any skills, and then they just go right out and start stealing and doing whatever they were doing before. We have to find a way to stop that. So I'm interested in doing some criminal justice reform, if you will, trying to figure out ways in which we can turn people around. When it comes to the illegal immigration, I think one of the things, not only we have to do is secure the border, but also there's going to be some penalties and some other things that these people are going to have to pay. There's not going to be any straight amnesty for anybody. So I'm not for that at all.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. Our next question is going to be from Waylon Johnson, Jr., who is the 9th Ward Republican Committeeman. How are you, sir?
Yes,
good to see
sir.
you.
Always good to see you.
Thank you.
Good evening, folks. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. I want to thank the candidates for standing up and taking on this endeavor, and I want to thank Cliff for agreeing to be our host. My question to the candidates: what is your vision for economic revitalization of the 2nd Congressional District, and how can you support and promote that vision from Congress?
I thought you were going to start. Well, I'm all for economic revitalization, as of course anybody would be. We have to find a way in which to, from Congress, there's no silver bullet here, and I like the question because we're going to have to work with other people in the district. We have to work with community leaders, we have to work with state elected officials, because some of the problems that we have in the 2nd Congressional District aren't necessarily some of the decisions that were made in Congress. Some are bad decisions because of what decision mayors made. Some are bad decisions because of the decisions that have been made in the state legislature. Some bad decisions have been made by the governor. You know, every time we raise taxes, especially on businesses, we make it difficult for people to operate. Every time we raise the minimum wage and make it difficult for young people to find work, because now you've increased the amount of money you have to pay them, but you haven't increased their skills. And I've just run out of time.
Thank you. Yeah.
First of all, I'd like to say that in the 2nd Congressional District, there are opportunities in the 2nd Congressional District that are being stolen from the citizens in the 2nd Congressional District. Right on 79th Street, the Lakefront Project. It is the largest development in North America. You never heard of it. It is the largest development in the whole world. That's right. You didn't even know that. That's why they're trying to get rid of the alderman and put a new machine candidate in. And the project is a 40-year project. For 40 years, they will be working over there, developing houses, and you didn't know nothing about it. There's plenty of opportunities in our community, but we ain't gonna be able to get it because every time we get a chance to get ours, the machines steal it from you. You ain't gonna get no opportunity if you keep voting for the same people.
I think the best way to bring about economic revitalization of the 2nd Congressional District is to bring about a multi-tiered approach that reflects the diversity of the 2nd Congressional District. We can't just bring in jobs to this district. We have to bring in career opportunities that match the working class folks, whether it's in South Shore or all the way down to Kankakee County. But we also have to provide the tertiary jobs so that people can have the entry-level jobs to get in, but also have career pathways so that they can stay in the communities, stabilize the communities, and be able to build themselves back to reconnecting with the American dream. Now, how do we do that? I think the primary thing that we must do from a congressional standpoint is make sure that we put smart tax policies into place that will allow us to repatriate funds, repatriate jobs, and then inspire employers to be incentivized to create additional career opportunities for people in the district.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is going to be from the Republican committeeman of the 9th Ward, Percy Coleman. 34th, I'm sorry, 34th, I got that, 34th. Please give him a round of applause.
First of all, I want to welcome everybody to this event. This is one of the few times that our new city chairman has put some effort into some outreach into our communities again. And I want to give Adam Robinson a hand for that. I think it's very important for anyone who purports to represent us, whether in Congress or in the city of Chicago. You cannot forget where you come from. And with the violence, the deaths in Chicago, this is real. And if you want folks to go out and look and work with you and vote for you, you need to also connect with them where they live. Chicago has a problem of control, gangs and drugs, and the Chicago Police Department. My question to the board is, do any of you believe that the GOP has a negative image among women and minorities? And if so, what can you do to address and change the GOP negative images on social, economic, and political issues?
First of all, I don't think nobody is more negative than the machine in Chicago. whatever the Democrats or whatever the Republicans may look like, they don't have no city or state like the state of Illinois. The state of Illinois, Cook County president is a Democrat. The state of Illinois, the governor is a Democrat. The state of Illinois, the mayor is a Democrat. Every single person is a Democrat in the state of Illinois that's in power. And it's the bottom on the credit list. It's got more corruption. They go in there and arrest governors in their house, right here in the state of Illinois. The people, the seat that we're running for is got corruption. I'll tell you and I'll say it again, we're running against a mechanized machine that make the Republicans look like something wrong with them and got everybody thinking that the Democrats has got it going on. How could they have it going on? They ain't no Republicans in my community. Ain't no Republicans doing all this stuff. These is Democrats doing this. It's not the image of the Republicans. It's my time up.
Lenny, you're next.
I think that I'm very effective at doing that, and I think that the way that we do that as GOP members is show that we're one of them. I know that my family was impacted by gun violence. My dad spent 11 months in a hospital without eating one meal after being shot in an attempted robbery, and I was his power of attorney. I understand that. I understand that my wife in a previous relationship, who was probably the most courageous woman that I've ever met, I love you, Lainey, she went through domestic violence in a previous relationship. You have to show people that you can relate to the social and urban issues that we're facing throughout Chicago and throughout America. Once you're able to do that, you can do what I've been able to do in my political career, whether it's been in the national media or in the grassroots. Create the bridges of understanding and trust, and then from there move people from where they are to where we need them to be so that we can succeed as one big team.
You ask a good question, and that's one of the reasons why my wife and I do Freedom's Journal magazine. As I said, we've been challenging the church in general, and the African-American church in particular, to stand for what we say we believe. For far too long in the African-American church, we've been voting for people who don't share our values. As part of the RISE principles, you know, responsible government, individual liberty and fidelity, strong family values, and economic empowerment, under the strong family values, we say that the family is the cornerstone of our civilization, and that marriage is between one man and one woman. We don't need to be redefining the family. And there are a lot of black preachers. There are a lot of black preachers who understand that and will stand with us. And my hope is to reach them in the 2nd Congressional District, because I know a lot of them as a preacher myself. I know a lot of them, and I served with a number of them at Bishop Brazier's old church. A lot of them have established their own churches in the 2nd Congressional District. My hope is to be able to reach out to them and get them on our side.
Start with some more questions, and Lenny will be the first on this one. What is your position relative to the Abraham Lincoln Airport in Peatone?
To me, the number one thing that this boils down to when it comes to the proposed Peatone Airport, it's actually two-pronged. The first prong is those that are living now in Will County went there to enjoy a specific lifestyle. They do not want to have that lifestyle interrupted by eminent domain. At the same time, in these hard economic times, anything that can bring jobs into the 2nd Congressional District, I think we should consider. Now, with that said, is there an opportunity to bring jobs to Illinoisans without disrupting the way of life that those in Will County have enjoyed for generations now? If there's a way to do that, to bring the economic boom that we need to our district without disrupting the lifestyle of those in Will County and those in Peatone, then I'm for that. But if there's only one way to bring jobs and to make the district stronger from an economic standpoint, I think that we should at least consider it, but always be mindful of the people of Peatone and Will County in regards to their lifestyle moving forward.
Thank you.
First of all, I oppose the airport in Peatone. It's a joke. It's a Ponzi scheme. It was never going to happen. I just told you that they're building the largest development on 79th Street, from 79th Street to 94th Street. It's going to be the largest development in the world. They're building the third airport in Gary, Indiana. It is called the Gary and Chicago Airport. They're doing the runway right now. It's a Ponzi scheme. The Democrats have you looking over here, stealing your land, while they over here making all this money. You need to pay attention to what they're doing. They're lying one hand and steal your money with the other hand. I told you once before, don't make me point my finger at you. You keep voting for the same people. You keep going for the same tricks. Pay attention to where the money at. Follow the money. Why would you build an airport almost 50 miles away from you got to go? Who flies 50 miles from where they going? Who does that? Who do that? You got sense. Your mama didn't raise no fool.
Right, Eric?
It's hard to follow that. But look, I'm not for the airport at all either. I mean, come on. You have no carriers who have signed up for this airport. Okay? You have no funding really for this airport. All right? And you like you said, you've got the Gary Chicago Airport already got more money to expand their one of their highways. Excuse me, not highways. What do you call runway? One of their runways. So why would we do this? And the only kind of jobs it's going to actually create are jobs for those people who already have jobs, those construction jobs, which go to the unions. So if you're not part of a union already, forget it. You're not going to get a job. So once it's built, what are you going to do? It's like building a mall and you don't have any stores ready to go in it. You're just going to have an empty building. So no, I'm not for it. What I am for is the Ileana Parkway, but I think it should go further south and should go to Kankakee because there's some economic development that can happen in Kankakee with the Ileana Parkway.
All right, thank you. All right, our next question, and Eric, in fact, you're up first on this. Please give us your position, gentlemen, on gun control.
There's a joke that says, I'm for gun control, a steady hand. I guess it wasn't that funny, huh? No, I'm not for gun control at all. I think that we have a Second Amendment, and we have a reason for a Second Amendment. It's so that people can protect themselves. And actually, you know, one of the reasons why they wanted gun control in the first place was to keep black people from being able to protect themselves against the Klan. I mean, come on. We want to disarm people. We want to make all these laws and make it hard for law-abiding citizens to get to arm themselves. At the same time, we're expecting for crime to go down. Criminals are criminals because they don't follow the law. It doesn't matter how many laws you make. And when you take guns away from the innocent, you make them victims for the criminal. No, I'm not for these gun control laws.
Saul?
I'm for the Second Amendment. I don't apologize. People should be able to defend themselves. But I will like to say this here. Other folks in the street, they say they are against concealed carry. Last time I seen in Chicago, everybody that's breaking the law is concealing and they carrying. Nobody is saying nothing about that. And I'd like to bring another thing to the table. The man said, let's arm our people and have them out of school. Let's have somebody to protect our kids at the school. Then he did a commercial saying that the president has some children and his children is being protected and he got armed guards at his school. Well, let's take it one step further. Let's just bring it local. Ron Emanuel got on TV and said it was a big thing about it. He got armed people around his kids. Everybody that's telling you to be disarmed is the ones that's armed. Start thinking for yourself. All I'm asking you in this movement is think for yourself. Stop letting them people get on TV and say everything, and we just like penguins. I mean, just like parrots. They say something, we say it too.
Time. Okay.
I think I need to be clear with this. I am definitely a Second Amendment supporter, and I say this with my dad being a victim of a gun crime, with me being a victim of a gun crime, and with my wife being a victim of a gun crime. We have to, however, enforce the laws that are already in place. Anytime that Vice President Biden can tell us, well, we have background checks, but we don't really enforce them. That's the problem. When we have things in place that we're allowing to let slide, that's the problem. The thing we have to go for first and foremost is make sure that people's legal rights are protected and that the policies and procedures that are in place right now are fully enforced so that those that are abiding by the law can enjoy their constitutional rights while those that are breaking the law are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
All right. Thank you. Moving right along. Paul, you're next on this. You're first. The question is, if elected to Congress, what one issue would be your top priority to work on?
My top issue is corruption, and ask for a congressional hearing to come back to Chicago and take all those people who has drove our people into the ground and have destroyed our community to bring them before justice, because those people are responsible for everything happened to our community. You got to have a purpose in your heart to bring that system down, because that system is a monster and it will not stop. It absolutely will not change its course. Listen, them people eating off that system and they loving it. We starving, they eating. My first thing is ask for a congressional hearing to investigate all the corruption in the city of Chicago to finish them off.
Lenny?
Cliff, that's a great question. And the very first thing that I would go after as the next congressman in this district is to get jobs and career opportunities back to this district. We can stabilize our communities if we can stabilize families, allow them to be able to access the American dream. We can get kids off the street, even those that are not going to get a college degree, if we're able to bring back working class jobs and blue collar jobs and bring back the types of jobs that people can be proud to have. Bring back a time where people that worked with their hands could buy a house, could buy a car, send their kids to college, and within one generation go from scooping ice cream and working 2 and 3 jobs at a time to possibly raising the next president from the United States. We have to be able to get economic vitality back into this district. And we have an opportunity to not only do so, but be an example for how to do it in districts like this across the country. So that will be my first and pretty much focused priority.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
The problem with that vision, and though we need jobs, is that the deficit is so bad that it's killing jobs. We need to get the deficit under control. We need to stop all the spending, stop the president from raising more taxes and taking away money from not only rich people, but you know your FICA just went up 2%. As he was talking about, oh, I'm not going to raise taxes I'm only going to raise taxes on the rich, those who make $250,000 or more. He taxed everybody. So, I mean, that makes it even more difficult now for people to start jobs and create jobs. You know, we're talking about economic empowerment, and the RISE principle means wealth creation, not wealth redistribution. That's what we need to focus on. We need to focus on getting rid of the deficit, bringing it down, and when we have economic prosperity, then we get more money in the coffers to pay down the deficit. So, I mean, it's a combination of these things. And there's also, since I got a little bit more time, I'm going to throw in education there as well. We need to work on education. Because if we change education and we get our students, our young people, just
Thank
run
you.
out of time.
That's nice. And he obeys. He just, okay, great. Our timekeeper's doing a great job, too. Lenny, you're up first on this. This year marks the 40th anniversary of Roe v. Wade. Do you support or oppose abortion rights?
As a lifelong Roman Catholic and a Christian conservative, I am a pro-life Republican living in an America that allows for pro-choice. I think that my life is the living example of being committed to pro-life principles. Having a child at 21, dropping out of school, going from being a deli clerk to support my daughter, who is now on the dean's list at Penn State, to working my way up, yes, she deserves that, to working my way up to being a computer programmer, going from a college dropout to a college graduate. And I'm also having a child at 41. There's a way to accomplish and achieve the American dream without having the wiggle room of taking a life in the womb. And I think that more Americans need to stand up for that respectfully, but firmly.
Okay.
I'm pro-life. I'm for people. I'm for families. I believe that the destruction of our people is the destruction of the family. I also believe that these abortion clinics that pepper the black community is a form of genocide. I believe that nobody ever talks about this in Congress. I also believe if they can't have all these McDonald's, if McDonald's can't be on every corner, then these abortion clinics shouldn't be on every corner, specifically in targeting our community. I see it as a form of genocide, and I see it targeting poor black people in particular, but everybody else in general. So I'm against it.
I'm pro-life, and as he's already said, the abortions have been about genocide. Margaret Sanger was a racist. She didn't like black people. She wanted to get rid of them, so she was going to use, first of all, birth control, but then, you know, a lot of white women started using birth control, and so they had to find another way, and so they decided to use abortion. We've killed, what, 14 million at least? We wouldn't be second to the Hispanic community if we had killed all the 14 million babies we've killed. And then we wouldn't have the problem we have with Social Security. So the problem with Social Security is that we don't have enough people coming behind us to actually help pay for Social Security. We've killed 55 million people. 55 million. Do you understand that? And it was 40 years ago. So some of those people would be 40 years old right now, and they'd have children, and might even be grandparents by now. So we've really hurt ourselves with this whole abortion issue, and we need to be and I think it's actually spilled over into our culture. That's why kids are running around shooting one another, because we don't care about life. We don't.
All right, thank you. Eric, you keep it. Eric, you're up. Are there any provisions of the President's health care law that you believe needs to be repealed or changed?
All of it. Look, I'm for a free market system that will help work and bring the cost down. I think we need to have competition in healthcare savings account, concierge medicine, all kinds of different things that will work within our free market economy. I think the government trying to take over the healthcare system was a bad move. I think it's hurt job creation. Instead of worrying about healthcare, you should have been worrying about jobs and trying to help get more jobs. It was just a bad move, and I think we need to change that. And that would be, one of the other things I'd work on when I go to Congress.
The best example of a failed health care system is the city of Chicago welfare system. That's the best way if you want. Now, if they talking about putting a system like that in play, come on, man, that stuff ain't working right here in Chicago. It's not working right here. Also, you're going to charge me a tax? You're going to charge me a tax if I don't have health care? I should be able to choose if I want it or don't want it. I have a problem with that. That's enforcing your will upon me. Brothers that take care of themselves, don't smoke, don't drink, and live a productive life, there's certain things that's not going to happen to them. People that's tearing their body down, then you need to be trying to get you some health care. But I have a serious problem with you forcing something down society though. That's a close to tyranny. And I have a real problem with the Obamas after the 63rd incident, where they didn't care nothing about them people's health down there on 63rd and Cottage Grove. So how they care about somebody's health all of a sudden now? I'm not skirting the issues.
Lenny?
Pre-existing conditions and making sure that Americans have access to health care that have pre-existing conditions makes sense. Having Americans that are going back to school or trying to augment their education and being able to stay on their parents' insurance while they're in school makes sense. What doesn't make sense, however, is when you have a law that says that an American citizen has to buy a product. That impinges upon personal liberty in a way that is dangerous. And as well intended as it is, what's next? We're going to take your guns from you because you can hurt yourself. We're going to stop you from drinking over 16 ounces of soda because it's not good for you. Little by little, the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness starts getting stripped away. So although, yes, we need healthcare reform, we need to reform what's in place right now so that we can still uphold the very best of what America's supposed to be all about, while still making sure that we get the very best health care that the world has ever seen.
Thank you. Thank you. Paul, you're first on this. Concerning the Republican tactics being deployed against the African-American community, trying to suppress votes, where do you stand concerning this issue?
First of all, I don't support anything to suppress our vote. We have a law in effect. It's called the 1965 Voting Rights Act that can't nobody stop us from voting. Can't nobody stop us from voting. Now, on the other hand, why haven't any Democrats filed any suits in federal court stating that in Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida, where the largest element of ex-offenders that are black in any part of the country, they can't vote? Why haven't any Democrats went down there and made sure you can't vote for life if you catch a case down there? Why haven't any Democrats or anybody step forth and say, we're concerned about those citizens down there? Because once you get out of penitentiary, you're still a citizen of the United States. And contrary to the popular belief, you're a citizen of the United States when you're in jail. You don't lose all your rights. You just can't vote. You just lose your freedom. So what I'm saying to you is that it's more being oppressed on the Democratic side than it is what they're trying to make out on the Republican side. This might be some blame on both sides. But what I'm saying is ain't nobody saying nothing.
Okay.
Actually, I think my record's pretty clear on this. I'm the only African-American Republican that nationally stood with the NAACP to counter the voter ID laws that were in place. And that took something that chipped away a little bit at political capital, but it's more about leadership and statesmanship and doing what's right, moving forward. I was somebody that stood with Ben Jealous, both in Florida, when it came to the ex-felons having their voting rights restored, as well as standing as the only Republican speaking to a crew of union members and Democrats, speaking out against the 2012 version of the Pennsylvania voter ID law that was struck down by the Supreme Court. At some point in time, as Republicans, if we're going to win back the minority vote, we have to show that we stand for justice at all times, and we will show our party where they are wrong when necessary.
Thank you. Okay.
I'm sorry, I have to disagree with that. We have to show IDs when we go to vote, early voting. I was a judge. I mean, you have to show ID. And there's nothing racist or discriminatory about asking people to get an ID to go vote. I don't understand this. We have voter ID in Georgia. Matter of fact, when they had voter ID in Georgia, which was done before this particular election, they found out that more African Americans came out to vote because they had ID. And it actually found out that African Americans ended up voting differently. They didn't follow the same patterns that they normally do because it found out that people were stealing their votes. Once you have voter ID, you know, you'll come out and you'll vote. So I don't believe there was any intent for people to run out and start saying that the Republican Party was trying to be racist and trying to stop black people from voting. I think one of the reasons they wanted voter ID was to try and stop illegal immigrants from voting, especially in Texas. So it may not be popular, but that's okay. That's where I stand. We need to have ID to drive a car. You need to have ID to do a number of different things. You should have ID to vote.
Thank you. You're gonna start this anyway, Lenny.
No, I need to rebut that because talking about the
okay.
voter ID.
You have 45 seconds
yes,
on this.
There's a clear misunderstanding as to what the voter ID law was in Pennsylvania. And the way that these voter ID laws are written, number one, the majority leader in the House of Representatives in Pennsylvania said, we put this law in place to make sure that Mitt Romney will now win the state of Pennsylvania, which puts an extremely partisan intent on that, and that was a direct quote. The second thing that was on there was the way the law was written in such a circular fashion that they were willing to give you free ID, but then once you went to the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, they weren't willing to give you the ID. And those are the types of things that are put into place to keep minorities and poor people from voting. So you have to be able to stand up to that and understand the nuances before you just carte blanche stand against it. I am for voter validation. I am not for voter suppression. Okay. And voter ID laws sometimes stand for voter suppression and not voter validation.
Your time's up.
Wait a minute, I never said I was for voter suppression.
I've got to go by the rules.
Nobody here is for voter suppression.
You made the statement, he responded, that's it. The next thing is about gangs and drugs. And Lenny, you start this off. Any thought about declaring all gangs terrorists and letting the full force of Homeland Security handle them?
No. And the reason why is, again...
This is an audience question. Well, we got good questions.
And the reason why, again, Cliff,
yeah,
is, and I understand the question. We are being terrorized in many ways by the gangs, the proliferation of gangs across the country. At the same time, if we allow the government to have an opportunity to take the label of terrorist and apply it to anybody, we now open up the opportunity where American citizens who stand against the corrupt government, such as Paul's been talking about, are now labeled as terrorists, and now we don't know what's going to transpire. With our kids in gangs, if we provide ample opportunities, if we provide leadership, if we give them something to look forward to again, we will stem off the flow into the gangs. If we can improve educational opportunities, bring about school choice, bring about working class jobs, white collar jobs, green collar jobs, blue collar jobs again, we'll stem the flow of gangs. We need to take those approaches, not labeling our children and banishing them to jail for decades on end.
all right.
First of all, I'd like to make myself very clear. They do have narco-terrorists in the east side. They come across the border. They bring drugs in by the tons, metric by truckloads. They bring them into the black community. Everybody can sell black folks dope, but black folks can't sell dope. That's the only person go to jail. I'm talking about those narco-terrorism that fly dope in my neighborhood and can drop it off, and for some reason the Chicago police cannot see them. They bringing this stuff in my neighborhood. They don't know who they are. They just can't see who these people is from these other countries. Contrary to popular belief, crack cocaine is not grown in the black community. It is grown south of the border. Them people bring that in our neighborhood, and they doing it for free. Those are your narco-terrorists. Them other guys, if you take them drugs away from them, they ain't gonna be able to buy no guns. You done ended the war.
Unfortunately, you know, the death of the day of Pendleton is a result of, you know, it's not doing much about the gang wars. I think we need to have a strong police presence. I think we need to go after them. But one of the reasons, but we also need, at the same time we're doing the police action, we must also think about how do we strengthen families. One of the reasons why we have gangs and people and young men joining gangs is because we need strong fathers. We need men to stand up and be men and father their children, okay? We need men to stand up. You know, if you have a child, take care of your child. Even whether you're married to the mother or not, you should take care of your child. And then we stop the number of kids that are going on and being part of gangs. But at the same time, we also need to do something to make it safe for people to walk down their own street, to play in a playground near their home. This is ridiculous.
All right. Keep the mic, Eric. This is you.
You wanted to rebut.
Oh, you want to rebut? Did you mention him?
I'm rebutting against both of them.
No, did they mention you? They he didn't mention you. That was just the opinion. No, no. Thank you. No, no, he went directly at his statement. That's okay, Paul. You're fine. You're okay. Thank you. In the presidential election, Mitt Romney spoke about 47% of the people being dependent on government. Do you think there are too many people dependent upon government programs for their livelihood? Eric?
Yes. Oh. Yes. Well, look, I think the idea of having a safety net is a good idea, but unfortunately, sometimes that safety net becomes a spider web people can't get out of. And we need to find ways in which to change our entitlement programs, some of the other programs, welfare programs, which help people get out of welfare, not stay there. And it's become a way of life for a lot of people. And we need to change that. Bring in new programs. And actually, we had something, the Republicans once put something in, maybe it was under Clinton, I can't remember which, but they had welfare to work, where you were encouraging people to try and get work, to get off of welfare, and to self-sustain yourself. Right now we have programs that make it easy for people to get food stamps. In fact, my wife was talking about somebody, and she was in line, and somebody behind her was using food stamps or one of food stamp cards to buy food. But at the same time, she wanted to put money on her phone card. And the lady asked how much you want to put on the phone card, and she said $400. So why she got $400 to put on her phone card, but she's got to use government money to buy food? I don't understand.
All right. Paul?
Yeah, if you're talking about when the president gave all the money to the banks, that was welfare. It was welfare when the president gave all the money to, it was welfare when the Democrats did that. Them wasn't Republicans. It was welfare when they gave money to GM. Didn't nobody say nothing about that. They didn't ask what they was doing with the money. They gave them the money, and then they did whatever they wanted to do. Which one we talking about? When we talk about a safety net, we always pick the little people. We always pick out the downtrodden. Yeah, there's some fools down there abusing, down there maybe doing something that they ain't got no business doing. That's just the nature of the game. But it's regular people. I mean, what can you do with $400? What could you do with $300? I don't have no problem with little peoples getting something to make ends meet. I ain't got no problem with that. I do have a problem when we can't see that the big guys who don't need the greedy, and they're not the needy, getting something, but we can't see that. I mean, we can't be impartial like that.
Thank you.
Lenny? Cliff, your question was, do we think that there's too many people on government assistance, correct? And dependency, correct?
Yeah. Do you think there are too many people dependent upon government programs for their livelihood?
The sad thing is, yes, but it's not their fault. If you look at the employment participation rate, that's been the lowest since the early part of the Reagan era. If you start looking at the unemployment rate that we're calling a success in the high 7s, when just 10 years ago, when it was in the mid-6s, we would have a problem with that. When we have gotten used to having an unemployment rate for African Americans at over 14%, and we give a carte blanche pass to the first African American president, that's a problem. So yes, there are too many people that are relying on government dependency, but that's because there's not enough people that are in government that are being statesmen and leaders to provide the type of policies we need to get employment back up and people back to work.
All right. Okay, Paul, you're up. Next question. When it comes to the U.S. tax code, are there any changes you would support making?
Definitely, we need to review the whole tax code. We all agree that we're paying too much tax. But specifically in the city of Chicago, we're paying a corruption tax. The reason why we're paying a corruption tax in the city of Chicago is because of the machine. There's a machine in Chicago that makes sure that everybody eat but you. And then when you finally make some money, they steal it back from you some type of way. Whether it be a boot, whether it be a ticket, yeah, we paying too many taxes. The code would be to bring it right here. I told you that you're going to have to investigate Chicago. Chicago is the dominion capital of corruption. You got to bring everything back here and deal with the machine. It's the machine fault. If a bird fall out of a nest, they did it.
Okay. Eric? No, Eric.
Yeah, Paul's right. We do need to reform the tax code. I mean, if you think about it, at the lowest rate, it's 10%, but then you add the FICA score, or excuse me, add FICA taxes on top of that. Not only did that, of course, just go up, but that's 7.65%, and then you've got 7.65% of which your employer pays. So you never actually see that money. It ends up going, to FICA. So I'm for a flat tax. I'd like to see a flat tax across the board and see us totally reform how we do that. I'd like to see us not tax the money that we save. That money that, when we get paid, a certain amount of money goes into the bank that you want to save, that doesn't get taxed. The money gets taxed as the tax that you spend. And you don't get taxed on that money you save until you spend it. That would encourage people to save money. And then you'd have some money for retirement, and more money for other things that you want to do in your life. So I'm for a flat tax and totally revamping the whole tax code.
All right, flat tax. Lenny?
Of course, everybody wants to not pay more taxes. And so we need to make sure that we modify our tax code. But what we need to do with that is make sure that businesses and small business owners have just as much of an interest in maximizing their profits as they do in innovating and creating prosperity around them. We used to have innovators in America, people that saw a vision, that were able to invest in that with their own capital and bring about things that we didn't have in our society before. That's what we have to bring back to the 2nd Congressional District, and that's what we have to bring back to America. Tax policies that allow people to keep their own money and then be able to move forward to create legacy for their families, and then if they dare dream as business innovators, whether it's a small business or a larger corporation, to be able to create the opportunities necessary to make America stronger and make the 2nd Congressional District the type of example we need to spread around the country in the 21st century.
All right. Okay, keep it, Lenny. This goes to Lenny to start off. The federal government spends more than it takes in. Do you believe it is more important to reduce spending or raise taxes as a way to eliminate the growing deficit?
You have to reduce spending, and you have to reduce spending in a way that allows us to have fiscal sanity again, but also have an opportunity to increase the tax base. The bottom line is if businesses are scared to hire, they're going to stagnate employment. If they stagnate employment, we don't have more Americans paying taxes. Therefore, they have to tax the rich more. They have to tax small business owners more. They have to drive businesses away to find tax havens. We have to get to a point in time where our spending allows the national sovereignty of hiring and American prosperity, that American exceptionalism that we all have come to grow and love, to finally come back to our shores, so that we can get people back to work, get to spending under control, and increase the tax revenue, not by increasing tax rates, but by increasing the amount of people that are on the employment rolls around the country, including here in the 2nd District.
Okay.
I'm kind of lost on the question.
Want me to repeat it?
Yeah, repeat the question.
The federal government spends more than it takes in. Do you believe it is more important to reduce spending or raise taxes as a way to eliminate the growing deficit?
Well, they need to reduce spending. They need to reduce spending.
Okay.
And some of the things that they need to reduce spending is the corruption tax. We don't need to be paying that tax, period. They need to reduce that. Most of the money that's sent to Chicago, I heard Jesse Jr. said he brought billions of dollars back to the 2nd Congressional District. And he may, and I believe he did bring it back. It made sure that it didn't come to our hands. So I'm saying that the money is coming back, but it's not coming to the right people.
Okay.
I think we're all in agreement here that we need to reduce spending, and that raising taxes won't do anything but suppress businesses, small businesses, businesses that want to be created, incubated small businesses. I mean, there's a number of, one thing about the African American community, there's a lot of people that have business ideas, a lot of people who are talented, and they should be able to start their own business without having, the burdens of taxes and so forth. And that's the only way we're going to reduce the deficit, is, as we've already said up here, is to increase the amount of people on the payroll. That's how you reduce the deficit. If you raise taxes, all you're going to do is suppress the creative process. You're going to suppress people, keep people from hiring other folks. And one of the things, again, economic empowerment is about wealth creation. How do we help people create their own wealth and move away from being dependent on the government? How do we do that? We allow people to use their creative juices, stop taxing them, give them some incentive to go ahead and spend their money, and go ahead and use the talents that God has given them.
All right. Eric, keep it. This is a very important question. Well, they're all important. And I think the panel's been doing well. Give them a round of applause. I think they've been doing a good job. And also, thanks to our timekeeper. She's been doing a great job. Yes. And I thank our panelists for responding to her affirmatively. A college education is getting so expensive, most families can't afford it. At the same time, students are graduating from colleges with so much debt from student loans, they are having trouble paying it off. What can the government do about making college affordable for most American families?
That's an excellent question. But before I answer that question on college, I want to answer the question about K through 12. I mean, we got a problem there, just getting people ready to go to college. I think we need to, I'm for school choice and opening up the doors for the money to follow the children to go to school. I think if we do that and kids are getting better grades, then they're open for, to get money from schools. They're open for scholarships and grants and things like that and don't have to take out loans. That's what I'm interested in. Let's get people to a point where they can go to these schools, get great grades, and they can get money that they don't have to pay back. The other thing is, the problem is when you have too much easy money, it raises the cost of college, because colleges know if they can get this easy money, we'll just raise our rates. We need to start working with colleges and say, hey, you guys can't be raising your tuition like you've been raising it. The cost of tuition has gone up exorbitantly. I've got 2 kids who've gone to college and have debt. I've still got debt from my PhD. So, it is not a good thing. It is not a good thing. We need to figure out a way to change that. And making money easy doesn't always help.
Okay.
It is appalling that people go to school, get a good education, and be in the hole. And I'm not talking about they're in the debt $10,000, $15,000. These kids come out of school and they owe $150,000. That's how they starting off. I think that we should have, a lot of things can be resolved in Congress by bringing people to Congress and asking them, can we work something out? See, it's better to have a half a loaf than no loaf at all. So you got a bunch of kids that can't pay their tuition. The college got to raise its tuition. It's got to do something to try to get its money back. It's got to do something. So you got to sit down with people who have a good mind, has an understanding of the problem, and iron this problem out. Because your future is your young people. And if the young people are already in debt, then you're already burdened the people already.
Okay, thank you. Lenny?
I think there's a lot of people out there that would question the issue of easy money when it comes to being able to go to college. I think that people that come, I know for me, my dad who worked in a steel mill, that had an opportunity to work hard and make sure that I had a good education. Want to make sure that that money was available. But when it comes to what Congress can do, we can make sure that the federal money that's being put out there, that easy money that working class families desperately need, that the working poor desperately need to change their family arc and their family legacy, that money is incented towards the types of jobs that we need here in the 2nd Congressional District. And we need to compete globally. STEM type of employment, STEM type of curriculums. Make sure that we're competing with China and India, because that's where our jobs are going right now, so that we can give the incentive to American businesses to bring jobs back to our shores. If that money is going to be out there, we need to make sure that it's optimized so that we can be global leaders throughout the education realm.
Thank you. When I said easy money...
This is 45. Did he address you specifically?
Yes, well, he talked about easy money, and that's what I mentioned. So he addressed something that I said. So what I'm saying is
45.
I don't mean easy money, meaning that when I say easy money, I mean when the bank is so quick, to give you a loan and put you in debt. That's what I mean by easy money. It's easy to get it, but hard to pay it back. I mean, it's what happened with the housing bust and boom. It was easy for people to get mortgages, but they couldn't pay them back.
You made your point. Don't forget, you got a closing statement. You can, yeah. Thank you. Paul, do you support, the next question to all of you, Paul's first, do you support allowing individuals to divert a portion of their Social Security taxes into personal retirement accounts?
I have a serious problem with that. I mean, what you mean divert their money from
The Social Security, putting it into personal retirement accounts, which was suggested by the last president, and of course the market went down the tube.
Well,
so
no, we have obligation to the people that's already on Social Security. We have obligation to keep putting the money in there and take care of them. I mean, especially the baby boomers need to take a good look at that, because the baby boomers is fitting to be the people that's going to be getting Social Security in a minute. So I wouldn't agree with nothing like that.
okay, we wouldn't agree with that. All right, thank you. One more, yeah, okay.
I think that we have to start looking at different types of options. Should it be mandatory to go into a personal investment account? I don't think it should be mandatory. But I think that as we look at the exploding spending that we have, and much of it being by way of entitlements, I think that we have an opportunity to talk to Generation X and Generation Y and see if they're willing to, in essence, look at other ways to take care of their future. We know that they're going to be healthier. We know that they're going to be working longer. We hope that they're going to have the right types of jobs here on American shores, so that as they stay in the workforce longer, they can put away more money without burdening the federal government. So should that option be at least explored? Let's explore that. Let's see how viable it is for the younger generations to consider that as an option, so that we can take some of the burden off the federal government and make sure that we can be vibrant as a government and vibrant as a people simultaneously.
Okay. Thank you.
I think we should have a number of options that, like Paul did say, we do have a promise that we made to, in Social Security, to folks. My parents are here, they're on Social Security. So I'm not interested in changing Social Security now, but there are people coming down the road. We have to look at different ways, because Social Security is going to be insolvent. We talked about the 55 million babies we've killed. I mean, that figures into it, whether you like it or not. That figures into it. So there's not going to be as many people paying into Social Security to take care of other people later. So that's what I talked about. One of the things we have to reform our tax code. Reform our tax code and not tax the money that we save. We can have people start putting money away and not totally reliant on Social Security. We need to start thinking down the road and stop kicking the can down the road, as they keep saying, because we have to do some reforms for these entitlement programs. They're not going to be sustainable. So we have to come up with some good free market ideas that will work.
All right. Help me, someone. Was that the last question, or do we have what? That was the last question. That was okay. One more question. Okay, I thought so. One more. Okay, and then we go into the closing round. That's fantastic. Okay, very good. I know this was just briefly mentioned, but it really wasn't a question. And there's a lot of votes going on this now in the General Assembly. I heard today a Senate committee passed it out. The question is, and we start off with Lenny on this one. Do you believe gay marriage is a civil rights issue of our times, akin to the civil rights movement of the 60s that eliminated legalized discrimination against the African American community?
I believe in the traditional definition of marriage, which is an institution between one man and one woman at one time. I also believe that Americans in same-sex couples must have some sort of protection. That is why I have publicly been in support of civil unions, because I think that as Americans, there are certain constitutional rights that we all must enjoy. But having those constitutional rights and protection does not mean that we redefine an institution that's been around since Adam and Eve. Therefore, I would look to make sure, as the next congressman, to do whatever I can do to make sure that Americans have the protections for their families, but we're also protecting an institution that goes back as far as Christianity. And as a Christian conservative, I feel that that should be the legal and current traditional definition of marriage.
Okay.
I ain't gonna double talk. I'm against gay marriage and all its evil works. You can't have one or the other. Either you pick the good or you pick the evil. First of all, it ain't nothing but one way, a man and a woman. I'm not in support of gay marriage, and I'm offended as an African in America that the gay community always try to leech upon our movement and say that they were discriminated like we was. There was no homosexuals put in slavery. They wasn't hanging homosexuals like they was doing us in Alabama. There was no Jim Crow against homosexuality. I'm offended that every time this is brought up, and then it's about talking about a bunch of no money. That's what it's about. To me, it's a democratic ploy to talk about a bunch of no money. Look, homosexuals gonna get married, you ain't gonna be able to stop them. I just ain't gonna agree with it. And I ain't gonna vote for it. On the record, I ain't voting for you. Period.
Right. Okay.
I'm in agreement. I'm offended that people try and use the African American, the civil rights that's trying saying that it's equal with gay marriage and so forth. Gays have a right to marry right now. They just have to marry somebody of the opposite sex. They don't. There's nothing stopping them from getting married. We all have the same rights. They don't get special rights because they want to marry somebody of the same sex. They don't get it. Actually, gay marriage is a counterfeit. It's counterfeit marriage. It's not real. It's not the real thing. And so I'm against it. Won't support it and won't vote for it. And I'm going to stand up and talk about it because, like I told you, I'm an ordained minister. It's against, I've heard Star Parker once say, you may be able to make it lawful, but you may be able to make it legal, but it won't be lawful, not in the eyes of God.
All right. All right, give our panel a big round of applause. And I also want to applaud the audience because we had some great questions. I think everybody would, yes, absolutely. And I thank so many of you for coming out. Wait till I get on the air tomorrow. I'm going to tell people there is a Republican Party. Okay, now we have a 2-minute, I have a 2-minute candidate closing statements, and we'll start as we have been going down the line. We have each person start on a different question first. And here we have, following our usual, Eric, Paul, and Lenny. Eric, you're first. 2 minutes.
It's a pleasure to be here tonight. You guys were a great audience. Thank you so much for listening and participating. Like I said, for the past 5 years, my wife and I have been challenging the church in general, and the African American church in particular, to stand for what we say we believe. We believe it's time for the Republican Party to stand for what it says it believes. If we're really conservative and have conservative values, we need to stand up and say so. And the theme for our campaign is Rise for a New Beginning. To rise for a new beginning and stand for what we say we believe. And if we truly believe that conservative principles can change our nation for the better, if we really believe that conservative principles can change our community, we need to stand for what we say we believe, and we need to rise for a new beginning. Amen? So I'm hoping that tonight we make up our minds to not only stand for what we say we believe, but to stand uncompromisable on our principles and unchangeable on our values, come hell or high water. I'm Eric Wallace, and I'm asking for your support to be our party's nominee for the 2nd Congressional District. And you know what? I'm going to have the 2nd Congressional District rise for a new beginning and stand for what it believes, because I know it stands on conservative values. We just need them to realize it. Thank you.
I'm Paul McKinney. I'm running for the 2nd Congressional District. I'm not running for the district like the other people are running. I'm running against a machine. I'm running against a mechanized machine that has brought our community down into the pit of hell. We got the highest murder rate in the whole country. The unemployment in our community is not 14%, it's 48%. We have in our community, Roseland, and I'm gonna bring Inglewood in too. Roseland, Inglewood, and South Shore. They has the highest foreclosure rate than anywhere else. All this been done under the Democratic machine. You got to understand this. If you vote for the machine, you voting for the same thing. The reason why this stuff is happening because you went along with it. You keep talking about you voting for the lesser of the two evils. You ain't got no business voting for no evil. Ain't no such thing as this is a good devil and that's a bad devil. Both of them devils. What you messing with them for? I'm telling you right now that in our community, it is time for a change. People are tired of the same old, same old. People ain't asking to change. People are just changing. I'm asking you to get on board. If you want to deal with somebody that's going to stand up and be accountable, then get up with me. If you're going to deal with somebody who's going to cower down, you vote for some other people. I'm not going to bag up or bow down to these people. I ain't been doing it, and I ain't going to do it now.
First, I want to say thank you to everybody that's come out here tonight, and thanks again to Breitbart Television and the folks watching us at home on CAN TV and those watching online. I think tonight we've had an opportunity to see a good contrast. A contrast between how to propagate conservative principles and how to promote conservative principles across to get new alliances, uncommon alliances, to get groundbreaking solutions that we need from this seat. We have a historic opportunity. And me, Lenny McAllister, asking for your vote, asking you to go to my website, lennyforcongress.com. I'm asking you to join me as one big team. Because in this district and in this America, if we're not capable, willing, and able to build new bridges, to bring about groundbreaking solutions, and do things that Reagan did, be able to work with Democrats like he did with Tip O'Neill to get us out of a bad recession, or be able to look at Mikhail Gorbachev and say, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall, but then turn around with Gorbachev and have friendships to help him tear down that wall brick by brick. One leader, one candidate in this race has the resources and relationships, the national track record, and the ability to inspire and move people to finally get us to a point of time where we have Republican leadership coming out of the congressional seat here in the 2nd Congressional District. That's why I'm asking for your vote at home. That's why I'm asking for your vote here. A vote for me, Lenny McAllister, is a vote for one of you and a vote for the type of change we finally can believe in. Thank you very much for your time, and God bless you all.
I just want to say it's been a pleasure to be here, and I'm so pleased to have been invited. And before I turn the mic back over to the chairman, I just want to thank all of you folks. I think our candidates were great. Thanks to all of you. Good question. I think the crowd was great because most of the questions we asked were from you, which is great. I certainly want to thank our timekeeper. You did an excellent job. Absolutely. And, you know, they say it's been a little rough out there. I don't know, it was starting to snow just a little bit. But as I tell everybody when I think about that, you know, we're all going to go at one point. When I die, I want to go peacefully in my sleep, like my grandfather did, not like the other passengers screaming in his car.
I don't know what to do with that. Ladies and gentlemen, please give Cliff a big round of applause for being here. Thank you to Breitbart TV and CAN TV for covering this important event. I want to thank Committeeman Coleman for making this facility available to us. On behalf of the Chicago Republican Party, the last thing I'll say is please a big round of applause for our candidates who did an outstanding job tonight. That concludes our debate.